Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the VoV podcast, Voices of IC. Today, I am here with fourth-year computer engineering student, Snoopmesh Carthy. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, Carter, for having me. There are kind of two people in this world. You got wolves and you got sheep. Most of the people in the engineering, maybe sheep is kind of like a derogatory term to call sheep, but...
You spent some time TAing even.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the process of being accepted as a TA?
That's the problem with our education system is there actually is no process to be a TA. You can just click the apply button and they give it to you. I never met the prof. I never did an interview and I have a really low GPA. It made me wonder, like, so how these are the people who are kind of marking our papers. It's just there's no like vetting process or anything. Once you're a TA, you get to choose. Can you be like a practical TA, like kind of just doing like the labs and stuff, or can you have like your own tutorial section? And I thought, okay, for sure, for the tutorial sections, you would have to apply or you'd have to do like some sort of reel of yourself teaching or something. Nothing. No one actually wanted to be a tutorial TA, and the professor kept asking everyone like, hey, who wants to teach? And I kind of just stepped up and I was like, I'll do it. And then just like that, I was just teaching with a 2.1 GPA. It was crazy.
Damn.
Yeah.
So
I'm not here to like expose their system or whatever, but you know, people are using ChatGPT. TAs are using ChatGPT to grade people's exams, like their stuff. So it's scary out there. So it just made me realize, like, damn. So I failed the course. What if the TA who was grading me was using ChatGPT? Who knows, right?
that's wild.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the VoV podcast, Voices of IC. Today, I am here with fourth-year computer engineering student, Snoopmesh Carthy. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, Carter, for having me. I'm a big fan of the podcast, everything you do, what you do for the community.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All love.
So
Thank you.
we're going to have a nice conversation here today. Yeah. Something I like to do before we completely dive into you and get to know a bit about Snoopmesh is connect you to a tie that kind of led you to this podcast with guests that know each other.
Right.
I try to kind of establish that connection. So you say that you came across this podcast from Rid Patel. That's a long time ago. You're going to be like episode 90 something. He was episode 29.
Damn.
So talk a little bit about your connection with Rid. How do you know Rid?
Man, Rid, that's my homie from high school. He used to do a lot of singing back then, and I was actually a rapper back in high school. Yeah. My stage name was DJ Perfect, so you can actually look up the videos and stuff.
Sweet.
It's all there. But yeah, he was my friend. We were in the same classes and stuff. And I remember one day he just goes into the group chat and he sends us like, yo, I'm on a podcast. Like, it was just a clip of like, it was fully edited and shit. And I was like, damn, who let Rid on a podcast? Right? Like, I was like, this is crazy. I have to get in on this. And then he's like, yeah, you should join. He gave me all your details and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'll join too. So it's amazing. It's all love. It's culture.
There you go.
Shout out to Rid. I love you. I was featured on one of his songs, actually. Divine Remix.
That's what it's called.
It's
called
the song's
Divine
called
Remix.
Final
Remix. Okay,
Divine Remix.
Yeah.
The original song is called Divine, but then he's like, we got to add DJ Perfect on it. So he remixed the whole thing. So boom, one verse in there. Classic, old classics.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So you're a fourth-year computer engineering student.
Yeah.
Where did the interest in computer engineering stem from?
I would say, there actually never was an interest.
Okay.
And to this day, I'm actually not interested. It's more of just a where does the money talk situation, if you really know. It's an unfortunate situation. It's an unfortunate world we live in today, but that's how it goes,
Is it your plan A, computer engineering? Is there something else you'd rather be doing instead?
Definitely, there is other stuff I'd like to be doing. First of all, what we just talked about, rapping, that was my original passion, but it didn't really, end really well. Didn't get a lot of support. I only have like 3 monthly listeners, so, it wasn't the best. But I always wanted to do something more on the creative side, speak to the people on some like kind of what you do, like with the podcast and stuff. Yeah. That type of thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay.
This is just the backup, I guess, in case things go wrong.
Yeah. I hear you. For me, it was after first year. Like, university wasn't exactly what I was expecting it to be, but I don't know if it's necessarily that I didn't have the balls to quit, but at the end of the day, you're also doing it for your family, make them proud. Yeah. But something about it, just makes you feel good to know that, I did it. I at least did the thing that everyone was saying was such a big deal, and then realized that maybe it wasn't as big a deal as I thought.
Exactly.
For you, is that the same kind of mentality? What do you think about like the heavy, degree grind culture of UofT? Just like to max the GPA and get all the way through and be a good student in that sense.
Well, I'd like to answer that kind of like, there are kind of two people in this world. you got wolves and you got sheep.
Okay.
Carter, you're more of like a wolf. Like I feel like the energy, like the drive that you have. And I would also say that most of the people in the engineering are kind of like, maybe sheep is kind of like a derogatory term to call sheep, but it's more of like, you know, you got one sheep saying, yo, it's really hard. We just got to get the max GPA. You got another sheep saying the same thing. It's hard. And you're kind of like in this echo chamber. It's just a bunch of sheep kind of like on the pasture. And there's like they're just eating grass kind of thing. There might be a farmer too, but it's just a bunch of sheep. Yeah. That's what it is, sheep. And you know, you might be a wolf. You start your own thing. You have the podcast. You got the Valentine's Day episode coming up. That's amazing. And you might have your friends who are also wolves. You kind of separate yourself from that. You don't want to get the highest GPA. You don't want to, you don't want to be getting the best degree. But if you're in a wolf pack, you're kind of also hunting for the same sheep. I mean, what do you do when you catch a sheep? You're sharing it with the whole pack kind of situation. You got to be a wolf in sheep's clothing. So that's kind of why I had to do something similar with engineering where, I don't have the best GPA or whatever, but it's like you do what you can to survive. And yeah.
I hear you spent some time TAing even.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How was that experience? What's the process of being accepted as a TA? Because I'm thinking about it, if it's not GPA related, because you even say like, I didn't necessarily have the best GPA, but how did you even get accepted then to TA?
That's the problem with our education system is there actually is no process to be a TA. You can just click the apply button and they give it to you.
Interesting.
I never met the prof. I never did an interview. I didn't really do anything. And I have a really low GPA. But I did do good in that class. Maybe they might have looked at the grade in that class. But there was no interview. And they said, hey, you can just be a TA. And it made me wonder, like, so how these are the people who are kind of marking our papers. It's just there's no, like, vetting process or anything.
Right. It's
kind of concerning, right? Like, how did they let that happen? And once you're a TA, you get to choose. Can you be, like, a practical TA? Like kind of just doing like the labs and stuff, or can you have like your own tutorial section? And I thought, okay, for sure for the tutorial sections, you'd have to apply, or you'd have to do like some sort of reel of yourself teaching or something. Nothing. No one actually wanted to be a tutorial TA, and the professor kept asking everyone like, hey, who wants to teach? And I kind of just stepped up and I was like, I'll do it. And then just like that, I was just teaching for real, like with a 2.1 GPA. It was crazy.
Damn.
Yeah.
So an experience like that must have been an event that you looked at education and thought, this is completely, more unorganized than I was expecting. I had this vision. I thought education was this thing that was supposed to basically determine the value of all the citizens that came into the system and went out of the system after 4 years or however long a time. Yeah. But I don't know if it was necessarily that. Was there a specific moment for you where you kind of snapped out of this and thought, maybe this traditional path isn't the best for me? Maybe I'm more of a wolf. What happened?
Yeah. No, I feel you. That's a good observation. Honestly, a lot of people will say I'm just coping because I don't have good grades. I'm kind of just, saying, grades don't matter, GPA doesn't matter. But I would say, when I failed my first course, it was like an electronics course where it's about like circuits and stuff. I'm in computer engineering, and I really want to do, or I kind of just, my interest going in was just software. So just like coding, like on the computer and stuff. So I have no interest wiring stuff up and doing stuff, but they kind of force you to take these courses in the first 2 years, and it goes very deep into the theory. And I kind of was just learning this, and I was like, damn, like I'm not going to apply this ever, right? I'm never going to actually use it. And it's kind of hard that it's a required subject to graduate. And then when I failed, it was like, damn, I kind of just got triggered. Like I was like, you know what? Like, it, I got to do something to stand out, to get a good job or whatever. And I applied to be a TA, and then I realized I can be a TA. Half the TAs don't even grade the things properly. Like the professor has to like hound on them and be like, yo, like, can you apply? Can you write them in time? And then it was crazy. Like people are using, I'm not here to like expose their system or whatever, but people are using ChatGPT. TAs are using ChatGPT to grade people's exams, like their stuff. So
damn.
It's scary out there. So it just made me realize like, damn, so I failed the course. What if the TA who was grading me was using ChatGPT? Who knows, right?
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's something students don't really consider, Yeah. Everyone knows that the students use ChatGPT, exactly, but the idea that the TA might just take your essay and say, grade this, give me a mark out of 100. Yeah. That's wild. That's next level. Okay, very interesting. Yeah, because you could literally just have the grading rubric document, put it into ChatGPT, put in the student's essay, and get AI to do it.
And that's for essay. Maybe for the essays that maybe the professor wants to like look over more. These are more for like technical problems, like on the question on the exam where you have to like write out snippets of code. And it's like, okay, you have the rubric, you just put their thing, does this work, does it make sense? And it gives out a grade.
Yeah.
And I can't lie, when I saw people doing that, I kind of had to hop in too and review it. But yeah, it's kind of, it's scary out there. So,
very interesting.
You got to do what you got to do.
Very interesting. Yeah. So I'm curious to hear then, if grades don't matter, you said that some people would just accuse you of coping. What, in your opinion, is the thing that matters? What if it's not grades? As a university student, the expectation is that we're not necessarily expected to work right now or work any sort of meaningful hours. Like, obviously there are students who do grind a ton. They work when they're not studying, but in general, no, not like 40 hours a week. Most students aren't working that outside of their studies. But if it's not grades that they're dedicating themselves to, what is it? So for you, if you're not doing grades, if you're not trying to, completely crush your courses, where's your mind at? What are you thinking about day to day?
I think, what most people need to realize is they have to kind of look at the system that they're in. Like, grades do matter for certain degrees, for example, right? Yep. Like if you're maybe trying to become a doctor, you need really high grades to get into med school. But for engineering, you can have a 2.1 GPA, you can still get a job. No one really looks at your GPA. And I think that's what people don't realize is when, you probably, am I like the first engineering student that's been on this podcast or do you remember?
No, we've had some.
Okay, you've had some.
I'm trying to think. I can't name them off the top of my head, but.
Yeah, but a lot of people in engineering, they might tell you like it's very hard because, I need to get the grade, like I need to pass, and half the time they're not actually just talking about passing. They're just saying like, I need a really good grade, but then they're not really asking themselves like, why do I need a good grade? Like, what's really the reason, right? Yeah. Like what's a 4.0 going to do to me? Like, you're grinding just to get that, but it's like at the end of the day, what is it going to give to you? Because at the end of the day, you got people like me who can become TAs, who can get jobs and stuff. And I don't really spend that much time studying. I don't really spend much time doing anything. I kind of just like doom scroll type of thing. I kind of have that privilege, thankfully. Yeah. But it's more of like, you have to always ask yourself, is what I'm doing making sense? I can't, like, going back to the sheep thing, you can't just look at someone else, hey, they're studying a lot, and get scared. Yeah. Like, oh, I got to study as well. A lot of people hate on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, that's my favorite app to be on.
Really?
A lot of people, they post their accomplishments on LinkedIn, and then they're like, yo, this is such a fake app. This is like, oh, like, this guy got this internship. This guy, like, and they're like, man, it makes me feel bad. It's like, why do you have to feel bad? Like, you're on your own track. You're on your own track. You're doing your own thing. If you can make your own choices, you're good. Like, you don't, maybe next time think about the process that you're in and don't grind for grades, maybe grind for internships and grind for something that will make sense to what you want to do. Right. For me, I just apply to a bunch of jobs. I try to make my resume as good as possible. I've had like an internship every single summer actually. So that's kind of something that I focus on, trying to do something like that. Something that can just make you stand out, like being a TA, anything like that can help you in your career, at least for me, for STEM. But even in others, you have to kind of find your own, way. Absolutely. Hating on LinkedIn is like going to the gym and hating on the strongest guy in the gym. Like, it's all independent, why you gotta hate.
So is LinkedIn better than Instagram?
100%.
Why do you love LinkedIn so much exactly?
When like if you go to the gym, you kind of like stare at your muscles type of thing. Yeah. You go to the mirror, you kind of work out, you stare at your muscles. I don't even scroll on LinkedIn. I kind of just look at my own profile. So it's kind of one of those things, not to be egotistical, but it's one of those things. There's a lot of people who grind for the hard grades and they find engineering is hard, but they might want to do grad school. Like they just really enjoy what they do. And I actually have a lot of respect for them. I wouldn't call them sheep or whatever. I wouldn't even say that type of stuff to them because there are a lot of really smart people in engineering, comp-sci, whatever, all degrees, and they're really smart and they love putting in the effort and grinding at Robarts. That's the thing about me. I can't even hate on that. I'm not really making fun of them. It's more about for people who, kind of get stressed and they realize like, hey, they get mad at me. Like, yo, that guy has a 2.1 GPA. It was actually lower before. It was a 1.9. Yep. At one point, it was 1.9. At my second course I failed was probability. 35% on Acorn. 35% as the final grade. Damn. Crazy shit. And people kind of get mad at me and they're like, yo, who let this guy be a TA? It's more for, well, you're a sheep. At the end of the day, you have to really realize if you don't really, because a lot of people join these degrees, a lot of people do medicine, a lot of people do engineering just for the money, just to get a job. And if you're one of those people and not really passionate about the actual work and you're passionate about like grinding and like you love studying, then you got to sit back and you kind of got to think. There's always going to be people who study. There's always going to be people who grind. And I have nothing but respect for them, all love for them. A lot of my friends are really smart people. who have like these really high grades. They talk to the prof after class. I don't even make fun of them. I love them. That's what they gotta do. And there's always gonna be people like that. But it's more for the people out there hating on me.
Interesting. So, what would be one piece of advice that if you could give and it would apply to the entire engineering faculty that would help them out? What would it be?
I would say sit back and ask yourself why. Why am I doing this? Why is this going to help me? And if you can answer that question, if you do think it's going to help you, then do what you got to do, study or choose kind of the path that I'm going on and really think about that. And I feel like that would help a lot of the people with stress and all of this in engineering. Because I can tell you, even though I have a really low GPA, I think it's a very easy program because I think I will get through the last year and it'll be good.
Who's smarter as an engineering student? The one who spends 4 hours a day in the library or 4 hours a day doom scrolling?
You got me, Carter. You got me.
You had to give an answer.
If I had to give an answer, I would say, 4 hours in the library, those people are definitely smarter than me. But it's once again the wolf and sheep scenario. Yeah. The sheep can always be smarter than the wolf, but the wolf is going to be the wolf in sheep's clothing.
There you go. Very interesting. Okay. You're talking about applying to these internships.
Yeah.
Getting these jobs. If that's the whole point of engineering is to make money, these students are more focused on reading books, not actually applying to the places that are going to give them money.
Exactly.
So what would be some tips on, bolstering your resume and actually landing these jobs? Maybe some interview tips. We all know how important interviews are and how hard they are for some students. So I don't know if you've necessarily had much interview experience or job application experience, but in terms of actually landing the internship, because once again, you've said you've been successful at that. What are some pieces of advice that would help out the student body here?
Sometimes it's just nepotism, right? Sometimes it's just you have those positions. But I would say my main advice is I wouldn't be the best person to get advice from, but I would say definitely do your research online. There's a lot of different outlets of information that help you with the kind of technical interviews or whatever. Practice like whatever your specific niche is, like if it's coding, chemical, practice, research that industry in terms of a professional lens. Like, is it worth doing a master's? Is it worth doing a PhD? A lot of people, one of my professors actually told me a lot of PhD students end up depressed. And they're like, they could have gone to Google or like Facebook or something, but they decided to go the PhD route. And that's what I kind of feel for. It's like, I feel bad because it's like, these are really smart people who maybe they're really smart. They spend 4 hours in the library, but they didn't kind of have that ability to kind of finesse or kind of, apply and do the interviews and stuff. I don't really have too much advice on that front, but it's more of like they kind of have to, once again, always just kind of think about like, where do I want to be in the next 5 years? And I think just naturally, if you're able to do that, everyone in this world is smart enough to be really successful. And I'm not here to hate on anyone. I'm just here to say I want everyone to be successful. That's why I came here.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a good message to share.
Yeah.
Something with social media, which is kind of what we're doing right now. We're trying to talk for about an hour, make a nice interview podcast, turn it into some clips. Exactly. People will see the clips, and it's a cycle from there. Exactly. But the thing with social media and the internet and just, I guess, technological innovation in general is that today, and basically the further and further we progress into the future, it always becomes easier and easier to succeed because there are so many useful tools, but it's also easier and easier to get distracted, right? Like social media is a blessing for people who want to use it to their advantage, to create or to help their business or to network or to meet people, this kind of thing. It's a great tool for that. It's also a fantastic tool to get lost in, you know, to completely get distracted, put energy in, but not get any reward out really other than just immediate dopamine hits. So what would you say in terms of kind of this generation being able to really capture the value that social media has to offer while not kind of giving in so much and losing so much of their personal energy and mind space? Because at the end of the day, you have a limited amount of time every single day to think about certain things. If
Right.
4 hours of that time is occupied thinking about nothing, because when you're scrolling reels, you're not actually, your brain is off basically.
Yeah, I got you.
And it's not as useful or healthy as sleep. When you're
Yeah.
sleeping, your brain's off, but that's good for you. When your brain's off, but you're physically still awake, that's not as good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with everything you just said. It's definitely about finding a balance, like finding a way to make that social media useful for you, kind of like what you're doing with the whole podcast and stuff. You know, I think Instagram, I had it deactivated for like a year, kind of 2 years ago, I think. And it was a good place for me to just like kind of recharge, catch up on school, and just kind of be in a better place mentally. But yeah, once again, it's just kind of knowing your limits, kind of knowing like, hey, do I really want to spend my time doom scrolling? Or I would say kind of do something like what I do, strategic doom scrolling.
Strategic doom scrolling.
Yeah, so I kind of doom scroll right now. I'm kind of in a phase where over the last few months I've just been doom scrolling, but it's like I'm currently in a spot right now where I'm actually taking like a year off of school right now, so I'm not even in school right now. I'm doing like a 1 year kind of internship type of thing, and I'm going to return to school next year. And I think when I return to school, I'll probably deactivate Instagram again to stop it. But until then, I'm kind of just doing that strategic brain turn off to relax.
So okay, very fantastic. Is the strategy purely in the relaxation? Is there more to it?
It's more of like I feel good being lazy because I know that, hey, I already grinded before to get this internship, to get this job that I'm already in. Right. So it's like when I'm doom scrolling, a lot of people feel guilty. It's like, yo, what am I doing with my life? For me, when I stopped doom scrolling and I realized I spent like, 5 hours scrolling, it's like, okay, I can spend another 5 more, you know? So
yeah,
it's kind of one of those situations. So it's
the reward. It's the reward for the previous,
exactly,
input, the previous time of grinding.
Exactly. That way you can doom scroll and you don't feel guilty about it. And it's like, hey, when you start feeling guilty about it, then that's when you shut it off completely. That's all it is.
Yeah. That's decent. I would say decent advice.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
strategic doom scrolling.
I'm impressed. I've never heard the term. I'm just kind of baffled right now.
I kind of made it up on the spot right now. That's what podcasts are all about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Strategic doom scrolling.
You said you were thinking about maybe you'd want to start your own podcast.
I'm trying to be like Luke Belmar with the shits. Like, you guys know who Luke Belmar is. Andrew Tate, Tristan Tates. Who else we got? FitX Fearless. I don't know if you know all these guys, but they got a mission, and you always got to ask yourself why am I doing this? Why am I on this podcast? This is the start of something bigger. I really love your podcast.
If there was the Snoop Mesh Carthy podcast, what would that look like?
Man, it wouldn't even be a podcast. It would be one of those like those one of those videos where it's like the guy is like in a mic and he's just like looking off to the camera. There wouldn't even be another person. It would just be me talking. I ain't even trying to have guests or anything. It would just be me talking and posting clips on Instagram. Yeah. That's kind of my dream life right there.
Nice. That's ideal. So let's circle back. I want to talk about this idea of the wolf and the sheep that you were depicting.
Right.
And the societal pressures that come with, post-secondary education. Where do they come from? Like, where does that stuff come from? Why is it so natural for even kids today? Like, there's a bunch of high school kids who, like you said, maybe get the influence from a lot of these social media figures, a lot of whom are saying, don't go to university, or university is a waste of time. There are different avenues to success in 2025. Like, a lot of them, really. Elon Musk says that when the richest man in the world says you don't need a college degree to work at Tesla. It's like, whoa, okay, so let's start to take this thing seriously. Why is it that so many people still feel compelled to go? Because you could very easily decide to not go and still waste time, which is not good.
Exactly. No, I mean, there's definitely a lot of pressure, definitely from parents, I feel like older generations, for you to go to university. And even I believe, even though I'm saying all this, I do think a university degree would obviously be very, very helpful. It's not, I'm more saying like you don't have to be the best in your class or whatever, but it's more of like a lot of people I feel are scared. It's more of just like you kind of grow up doing stuff like naturally. It's like you naturally just go to elementary school, you go to middle school, you go to high school. You're just taught like you have to get good grades, right, to get to the next thing. I don't even think you can fail elementary school or middle school.
Right.
Is that possible? Do you know?
I'm pretty sure you're not. You can't anymore.
You don't get a grade, right? So it's like, why are you even studying that hard? Like, a lot of kids don't even really like school. They kind of think it's like, I hate school, man. Like, so it's like, why are they even studying then? Like, right? So it's kind of like that thing. And then when high school comes, that's when you can actually start failing courses. You get the number grade. So you're kind of just conditioned to follow this path, which is fine. I think like school is good because it helps you develop your brain. Yeah. It helps you develop good habits to make you more resilient as a person. And I think, up until high school, it's really, really good. But I think like once you graduate, you kind of have to take that step back and realize, oh, just because all my friends are doing this, I just want to also continue getting good grades. That's when it kind of ends. It's like you got to choose your own path. When these people are saying you don't need to go to university, you think you're really smart, you have something of your own, like your own startup idea, you should go chase that. If you want to do like your own creative thing, you should go chase that. If you're someone like me, I got kind of scared and I kind of just went to university just for the degree because I think it's just going to be a safe thing for me to always fall back on. I think I'm pretty good at it now, just in terms of being able to finesse and getting through it. I think I can just stay in that field like that and just kind of try to pursue something on the side. But not a lot of people might have that type of ability, or like they might be mentally, stressed if they do something similar. So it's like, that's why I feel like you gotta, kind of make that choice, because it's kind of hard to uncondition your brain to think that, because you've just been kind of following it for all of it.
Yeah. So here's a question I have, because when I look at some people who live maybe more calm lives, and some of them it's because they are literally just lazy and they don't want to push themselves any further than they need to just kind of get by. But some people have actually thought about it. Maybe they worked hard at one point in their life, and they've made a conscious decision to say, I am only going to work to get, the necessities of life. I want my wife, I want kids, I want to live in a decent house, but nothing fancy or crazy that stands out to flex. I want a normal car, a normal job, just once again, enough to provide for my family. So in that sense, and when I'm not working and when I'm not with my kids, I can watch sports and I can do what I like to do. In that sense, do you think there's anything wrong with that? When people are aware of both sides, but they say, no, I don't want this life that is purely work and pushing myself every single day until I eventually die. And I just would rather, be at peace and do what I need to do. Obviously, fulfill my responsibilities, but the rest of the time, I just want to enjoy to myself and with my family.
Yeah, it's a peaceful life. I respect old people who it's a noble pursuit to do that. I'm not like trying to tell everyone, you gotta get 5 Lamborghinis to be successful or anything like that. There's a guy on Instagram, I think you've seen him probably. He just kind of does like day in the life vlogs of him just going to the office and stuff.
Okay.
You know who I'm talking about? Or it's like he kind of works as like an analyst, and he just kind of paints his life as like really boring, but he enjoys it.
I think I've actually seen a video of that. Yeah.
He's pretty viral. But there's nothing wrong with that. And that's the thing. It's like, okay, so now you have that life, and it's good that you're thinking that far, that you want that. So what do you think you can do to accomplish that? And sometimes it's like a lot of things are kind of, changing right now in the world, where that is even getting that, just having like your own house, for example, and here in Canada especially, is getting hard for people, right? Yeah. So it's like, that's when you have to start thinking about, hey, it's kind of like, instead of maybe complaining, hey, who's like, we need this prime minister, or whatever, or getting into that type of end, it's like, what can I do on my end to actually make sure I guarantee that I can get a house? And that's when you kind of have to start thinking like, low-key, I might have to grind to even get that at this point. And it's sad that it has to be that way, but it's like, might as well do it just for that safety if you can, if you're able to. Yeah. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with having a nice life like that. Even I would also be fine with that, most likely. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I actually do. I've thought about that as well, where even to be able to afford, like I said, those bare necessities isn't the easiest thing. Like the average person can't do it. Exactly. So you do have to push yourself even to have those things that, not too long ago were just kind of normal to have. Yeah. So that's a very interesting point. So something you say now, like this, that's completely fine if you choose to do that. I want to talk a little bit about positivity, optimism, being a good person day to day and trying not to put other people down. It's something that, especially if you get started in social media, putting yourself out there, it's something that a lot of people worry about. They're self-conscious because they're worried that people are going to judge them online or call them cringe. This sort of thing is a very common fear.
It's true.
For you, like, do you ever think about the impacts that others' negativity could have on your life or your friends' lives, or does that ever hinder you, or does that ever come into play when you're thinking about really pushing for something big? Because anytime you do try to strive and do try to, make your dreams a reality, people are going to say a bunch of bad things because they're worried that if you show them that you can do it, then maybe they could have done it as well. And they've just kind of given up on themselves.
Yeah, nah. No, I experience a lot of negativity, more of just like this kind of what I'm talking about right now, kind of this whole thing like, yo, grades don't matter. And a lot of people will say like it's kind of a toxic environment, engineering and stuff, where there's some people who kind of just look at me. I kind of go into class, I kind of just sag my jeans a little bit. It's not that much, but they kind of just look at me like, yo, don't be friends with that guy. Like, he's a dumbass. He has a 1.9 GPA. He won't help you in the labs or whatever. That might be true. Like, sure, I might not really be the smartest, sharpest tool in the shed or whatever. But it's more of just a thing. It's like, you have to, as a person, and I wish everyone understood this and they wouldn't be scared, is it's completely fine to have hate. Like, there's always going to be someone saying something. It's just a matter of how can you spin it so it works for you. You know, you should always love yourself as a person. You should always, even though it kind of sounds egotistical, but you should think that you're like, you should walk on this earth kind of thinking like, hey, I really, know what I'm doing. I believe in myself. I have that power. So it's like when people say like, yo, don't be friends with that guy, he's dumb, whatever, I kind of take it as a compliment, because it's like, okay, it just pushes me to do harder and prove you wrong type of thing. Yeah. Right. So it's kind of like, I wish everyone would just, not care what other people think. Like, I couldn't give a shit what people say at this point. There was one time we were picking partners for a lab, and there was, I didn't really pick my partner in the lab before. Everyone kind of goes on Quirkus and picks the partner before. And then I just walked in, everyone had a partner. And it's like, okay, I'll obviously find everyone because it's designed so you can have two people. There's just one guy in the class. I've never seen him before. Okay, I'm like, oh, hey, dude, you don't have a partner? Let's be partners. He kind of looks at me. He's like, no. I asked the TA to be by myself. What the f***? Carter, what the f***? What the f***?
That's tough.
This guy asked to be by himself. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just hate. But it's like, in that situation, I'm like, damn, like, do I just be sad and like cry myself to sleep? No, I kind of just get angry. I'm not going to like cuss him out or beat him out or spread hate. I don't spread hate. I'm kind of just saying in my mind, like, man, f*** you. Like, what the f***? Yeah. And then you kind of just move about your day. And then what ended up happening is I actually got to join a group of 3. And we were able to do really good because we had 3 people on one thing. So it actually ended up working out for me. So you always got to look at the positive side of things. But, man, f*** that guy, bro. That guy. I have a list on my phone. It's just kind of like an op list. Yeah. Just that guy's on that list. There's
How long is that list?
There's only like 4 people on it right now. I'm trying to piece it up with everyone. I don't want that list anymore.
I wouldn't want to be on that list.
No, you're not. That's so don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Now, you are working somewhere as a software engineer. Is that right?
Yeah. AMD.
I see AMD. Yeah. What is AMD? Am I an idiot for not knowing what that is?
No. It's like a chip company. Intel and NVIDIA.
Okay.
You know NVIDIA for sure, right? Yeah. It's actually just NVIDIA's biggest competitor. They just make GPUs for computers and stuff.
Got it. Yeah. So how'd you land that? Did you have to riz somebody up? How's the experience been?
Yeah, no, to get it, the interview was kind of they just looked at my resume and then they told me to do a technical question. And I actually, once again, I fumbled the technical question, but I think they just really liked the way that I was talking. They liked that, I had previous experience in my resume, and they kind of liked that I did like the certification. That's another thing. Like, I did like the certification, like a boot camp type of course, teaching about like the specific technology that they use. And it kind of put me on the edge. And that's the thing, getting that course was just easy. I just did it over the summer. And those are just things, going back to what we said before, it's just making yourself stand out. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure if I didn't have all of this, they would have seen me like kind of flunk the interview and be like, yo, that, like, just don't hire him. Yeah. But I got hired because I just, once again, knew how to do those extra stuff, know what's relevant in the field. And yeah, I got the job. And in the job, it's actually not that hard. A lot of the things that we learn in school is definitely way harder than the actual job. That's what I realized, especially in these fields. But it's very relaxing. I like all my teammates, and it's not even like I'm doing a bad job. That my manager actually said, in our one-on-one, like, she really likes my performance. Like, I did 100% on the performance review, so it's all good. That's why I'm not stressing. It's like, who cares if that guy doesn't want to be my lab partner? I don't even know where he is, man.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So it is what it is.
So
he might have got deported or something. No offense, but I think he might have, because he might have not found one. And if you can't find one, I think you have to get sent back for a year or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I have a question. You're from Brampton.
Yeah.
Do you think Brampton's reputation keeps up with the actual city? Because I went to high school in Brampton. I know that you did as well, or at least.
When did you go to high school in Brampton? Is it you're also
2017 to 2021?
Same. Yeah. I think back then, are you still in Brampton or
no? I'm not. No.
I think back then it was getting a lot of hate for no reason. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
But I think like after COVID, there was a lot of like, changes with the city. Yeah. A lot of it, like, it kind of became like overpopulated and stuff. So
Yeah.
I think now it actually deserves the hate, and I'm kind of trying to leave Brampton as well.
Yeah.
I don't think it's if you kind of grew up in Brampton kind of before COVID, I think it was a pretty good city. It was really nice.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
What's the best part about Brampton?
I feel like it's actually,
Even one.
no, I can't really.
The driving is good.
I can't really. Actually, I'm not a good driver, so I think because everyone else is not a good driver, it makes me, feel safe on the road as well, because you kind of know how to react. You don't get kind of yelled. Oh, you know what? There's no road rage in Brampton, realistically.
There's no road rage in Brampton?
Because everyone's a bad driver, so they don't really give a right? So when I drive the Vaughan, man, like when I drive, because my work at AMD is in Markham, so I have to drive from Brampton to Markham like 2 times a week. And then like sometimes I'm driving and there's like this one street where I have to turn left in, and it's like a really crowded street. So I have to kind of turn left, and people are driving. The people in front of me is driving. But sometimes when you turn left, I kind of get stuck in the middle of the intersection because it's all full.
Yeah.
Obviously, how am I supposed to know that? Because it's moving when I started, right?
Yeah.
But I could kind of get stuck. You know what I'm explaining, right?
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, everyone's like, "Yo, what the are you doing, man? Yo, dude, what the are you doing?" Like in the craziest voice, like, "Yo, man, relax, bro. I didn't even know. Go back to your country, you dark What the bro?" The guy's unrolling his window. Some random dude. Man, this wouldn't happen in Brampton. If it was in Brampton, they'll be like, "It's okay, man. I get it, man.
Yeah.
It's whatever."
Yeah.
What the it's crazy. So I would actually say it's better to drive in Brampton. Like, scratch that.
Yeah.
It's actually the best place to drive if you're not really good at driving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it, bro. Got it. And what about the worst thing? The worst thing in Brampton?
Man, right now it's just I don't really want to say it, but it's a lot of immigration problems that's going on in Brampton. If you would say there's a lot of when I go to the gym over there, it's kind of extremely crowded type of thing.
Got it.
So yeah.
Got it.
It's definitely, there could be some stuff that can be worked on.
Yeah.
In that edge.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna take a quick 5-minute break for the cameras.
Okay, sure, for sure.
And we'll jump
We'll
right
be
back
back.
into it.
We'll
It's
be
been a
back.
pretty good conversation
Thank
so
you.
far.
Awesome. Thank you.
Back with Snoop Mesh. How's it going, man?
It's going good. Throwing
So,
out my favorite signs to the camera.
I wanted to ask you about the importance of authenticity, especially in university, in first year especially. We're older. We're in fourth year. You're graduating this year?
Graduating next year. I'm on a 1-year gap kind of right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. So we're almost at the end of our journeys.
Yeah.
And in first year, though, I'm sure, I don't know if you had the same experience, but the main thing that students are worried about is just fitting in. Finding your people, finding a group that you can kind of settle with, because it's a brand new environment. Everyone's looking to make friends, so it's a tough time necessarily. You can't be completely yourself if yourself is a little bit more quirky, for example. Yeah. But now that we're older, what would you say is the importance of just kind of embracing who you are, trying not to sacrifice the qualities that make you in order to please others?
Yeah, I think authenticity, you know what I'm talking about, but it's important being yourself. I think what you said, like the pressures of trying to fit in or whatever, but I think like if you're able to, and it all ties back with what I said before, is the second you start trying to fit in, you start trying to say, hey, I'm just doing this because other people are doing this. I want to be like this type of person because other people are being that type of person. That's where the stress starts to come in. That's when you start going back to what I said before. That's when you become a sheep, unfortunately, right? You got to take pride in being your own person, and you got to take pride. If someone isn't calling you a dumbass, then you aren't doing it right. If someone isn't calling you lame, then you aren't doing it right. You know what I'm trying to say? You should do what you think is really, defining you as a person. I think university is a good place to develop those type of social skills and find out your true purpose.
I think that's the main core message of this episode, or just kind of what you're trying to say, is that, if you love school, if you love studying, if you love hating, maybe the pressure, that's great. Embrace it. Do what you love to do. I don't think that people necessarily are going to hear that and be like, okay, maybe they'll hear your message and say, no, that doesn't apply to me. I'm very happy with, my studies and doing what I'm doing. Obviously, tests cause a bit of stress, but that's just part of it. Yeah. Overall, it's a fantastic experience. But we're mainly trying to get to the people who, feel lost, feel like, I really don't want to do this, or maybe I just want to do this
imposter
for the money.
Syndrome. Yeah. It's for people who feel that imposter syndrome, and it's like, it's fine. It's more about being comfortable with being the imposter. It's fine. It's completely fine. Try to spin it in the way where you feel confident in being that person, I guess.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Okay. So what have you taken away mainly from your university experience up until this point?
Define like taken away. So
like
it's
what has University of Toronto
yeah.
provided to you? What's something that, maybe you didn't know about yourself going in from high school, and university has changed you in a way where you feel like you might be a better person or a more developed person once you're going to graduate?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has changed me in the sense that, there's definitely been low points for me. It hasn't always just been sunshine and rainbows, right? Where I just kind of instantly knew all of this, like, hey, it's good to have bad grades. It's good that people are saying like, oh, they don't want to be my lab partner or whatever. Like, obviously there was a point where it was like, like, this is not for me, dude. I wish I miss like Brampton. I miss like my friends from home. But there was kind of that turning point. It's like, you have to kind of put yourself out there socially. You kind of have to find that purpose, and you have to put the effort to do that. It's just not going to naturally come to you. And sometimes you have to kind of be at like the lowest point of your life to really, jump off the couch and find that purpose. So I think that's kind of what helped me realize is, I realized my purpose is just to help others kind of with situations like this. That's why I came to this podcast. It's just to teach others, like use what I have, my gift, to preach and see if that can help others. And it definitely made me better as a person, as just like understanding different people. Before I was kind of more conceited. I feel like I was more egotistical before, but now it's like I view everyone, like even people who are grinding, sitting at the front of class. I genuinely like being friends with them. I like being with people who, skip class and smoke weed all day. Everyone, I love everyone. And I'm grateful that I have, such a wide variety of people to talk to. And I think, having that exposure is really nice.
You're sharing this message, and it sounds very positive that you've been able to help people.
Yeah.
Or that you're trying to be helpful to people. Have you been able to spread this message in your, let's say, personal social circle? So the people that you interact with daily or weekly, or just know on a personal level. Maybe there are people listening to this message who don't necessarily know you, but they hear your words and they're like, this is a fantastic message. This is, helping me perhaps with my time at UofT, and it's good in that sense. I'm wondering if there's been people in your life that I don't know, but obviously that you have a close relationship with, who you've been able to kind of shift their perspective on things and maybe feel a bit more at ease with.
That's what I'm saying. A lot of people say that I'm playing like some sort of character, like I'm always trolling, I'm always unserious. But that's the whole idea. That's like in Avengers when the guy's like, when Hulk, he's like, I'm always angry. That's me. I'm always just kind of putting on that front. But I think people see that and they realize like, hey, if this guy can do this and like for some reason he's so delusional about this, he's not scared of like failing, getting a 35 or whatever. They kind of hang out with me and they're like, yo, if I'm just around this guy, I feel better about myself. I'm kind of inviting them to kind of look at me and be like, yo, this guy's kind of dumb. And I feel like all the people around me kind of poke fun at me, but it's like, since I can take it, I'll be that like beacon of hope for them. Kind of thing. And I think I've definitely influenced people in my circle like that who know me well, who kind of know like, yo, this guy's a dumbass, but like, how was he able to do that? How was he able to do that? Type of thing. Yeah. Right. And I think I've also been able to influence people who I'm not close with through my TA position as well. All the students, I kind of did what I'm talking to you right now. I said that to them at my last class, actually. At the end of the class, I revealed my GPA to them. And I told them, hey, I'm a TA and I don't really know much. And did you guys know that I was a bad TA? No, you guys didn't really realize, right? Yeah. They actually really liked me. And I told them about like the job that I was going to. And now they still hit me up on like LinkedIn and emails and stuff. And they ask me for help. Like, yo, how did you get that job? Do you have any advice for me? You want to do like a mock interview with me? And I help them. I love helping them. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And I actually got to be voted best TA in computer engineering for that semester as well. I have the certificate. I have the plaque in my wall too. So it's really nice that I'm able to influence people like that. And I think a lot of people should strive to do something similar. I think it's something that's not really talked about like kind of putting on that character and just trolling. Trolling can be positive. It's a good thing.
Absolutely. So what's the key to influence then? That was the bigger question that I was thinking of asking. And there are people who try to do what you do. They try to give advice, they try to preach, to help people, but maybe it doesn't always come off the best way. I know I definitely had that same problem when I was younger. So maybe like a couple of years ago, it was in the Andrew Tate revolution phase. And I was hearing a bunch of new ideas I've never been exposed to that were making a lot of sense about hard work, about effort, all this kind of thing. And when I was hearing them for the first time, they transformed me on such a deep level
Right.
that I tried to tell them to basically all the people that I knew and cared
okay.
about.
Yeah.
But the difference is that I'm not Andrew Tate. I haven't really proven myself. I'm not rich. I'm not successful in any meaningful way. So why would the hell would anyone want to listen to me is the main point. But people try to give advice. But the thing is that people might not be as receptive to their advice for whatever reason. But I'm curious for you, if there are people that you've said that you've been able to help, why do you think that they wanted to listen? It's not necessarily all the time about your message. Obviously, that's part of it, but they have to be able to listen. I heard a fantastic quote. It was actually from a Victoria College admin a few days ago, or like a couple weeks ago. And she said, your argument is only as strong as your reputation with the other person.
Exactly.
That's a very great way to put it. So,
Nice.
So how have you been able to kind of prove your reputation or make people willing to listen to you?
That's the thing. I think that's the whole point is I'm not going to my friends with like this mic and telling them all of this actually. It doesn't happen because it's just who I am. And it goes back to the whole authentic thing is I'm not actually telling people to listen. That's the whole idea is I'm just doing me.
Yeah.
I'm doing my thing and then people are just kind of taking notice. Like they're forcibly having to see it. They're forcibly having to see like, oh, like this guy, he doesn't care about this. Like, why should I care? I'm not telling them not to care. That's the whole point. This is probably the first time for me that I've actually gone on camera and told any of these thoughts out loud.
Right.
But I realized like just who I am as a person, this has kind of influenced other people, people from my high school, uni or whatever. And I realized I can now put it into words. That's the whole thing. But I feel like if you're trying too hard and trying to spread that message, it might not always land.
Right.
And that's what the quote you said too. It's just your own reputation. So it's like if you do have what it is to back it up and you believe in yourself, everything will just naturally fall into place later and people will just naturally want to feel what you're feeling.
Yeah. So you gotta embody it first.
You gotta embody it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't go out there and preach. I just kind of, that's what I would want to do. That's kind of what I want to do in the future. But I kind of just be that person and then people just naturally listen. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's completely true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And once again, like because I have something like a podcast, it's hard. It's you have so many ideas.
Right.
Like I think it starts with, I don't know what comes first. I think thoughts probably come first because that's actually a really good question. Maybe we could discuss that. This is something that I haven't thought about too much, but it's actually very interesting. And I'm sure there's probably an answer or a deeper philosophy behind the whole thing, but maybe we can try to figure it out on the spot here, you know?
Yeah.
Carter Ponce and Snoop Meshkarthy. We can figure out the laws of truth here, the laws of the universe.
Yeah, I got you.
Do actions I f***ed it up on the first try. Do actions transform our thoughts more than thoughts transform our actions? What comes first? This is like a chicken and the egg situation. Because I can think of scenarios in my life where both are true.
Yeah.
I've done things and it's physically changed me to a point where now my mind was set straight.
Yeah.
This is very different. Like when I started going to the gym for the first time, I got physically stronger. You know, I kind of filled myself out. I always used to be a little bit too skinny, but you know, I was able to build that physical strength, which gave me mental confidence. But then also you hear, you know, motivational figures perhaps online who share a perspective that completely alters the way you think. So for me, it was with dating. For me, I heard a thing with Jordan Peterson, and he said he got a question a lot of time from people saying, how do I find the person that's right for me? And he goes, that's a bad question. The question you should be asking is, how do I become the perfect partner for somebody else?
Yeah, I agree.
Completely. And that was a thought. That was a mental thing that changed the way I thought. And then that changed the way I acted. So there's examples for both, but I wonder which one is more prevalent. What happens more? What is more reoccurring?
Honestly, I think it's more of just like not thoughts you can put into words, but you kind of have a feeling. It's like an intuitive feeling. Like intuitively, this makes me feel good. Intuitively, this gives me dopamine when I make this person laugh or when I help this person. It kind of just naturally happens. And naturally, I think the thought comes first. Like just you naturally want to do something. Like you naturally have a human instinct. That's just like your survival instinct, like your purpose. And the second you know that thought, you might just have the ability to naturally do the actions to do that. I feel like that's just honestly human instinct. And in the second the cycle kind of compounds, you actually are able to understand what's happening. And you're able to kind of understand like, yo, this is actually my thoughts. And I actually do this already to do those thoughts. So now how do I improve my actions to elevate where I want to go in terms of my thoughts? I think it's kind of like it kind of what do you call it, compounds over time type
Right,
of thing.
right.
I feel like it kind of just starts as like something small, like hey, I just something as simple as hey, I like making my sister smile or something, and then you kind of just do stuff to make her smile, and then you realize I like making a lot of people smile, and I want to do something that makes a lot of people smile.
Yeah.
I want to do something that helps a lot of people. Stuff like that.
Absolutely.
That's kind of how I would take on it. But I'm no Jordan Peterson or anything. But honestly, I could probably one-on-one Jordan Peterson as well. So it's all good.
There you go.
Yeah.
So a related topic or a related
Yeah.
idea. This isn't from another podcaster. I listen to people. It helps me get ideas for this because well, I started a podcast because I listened to them a ton when I was in second year. So it was kind of a thing for me, seeing other people do it. I wanted to do it, so now I'm doing it. But I heard Chris Williamson. Do you know Chris Williamson?
No,
Podcaster?
not too sure.
No?
Not too
Okay.
sure. I might have seen his clips.
Might have seen his
but
face,
not-
yeah. But he was talking about something called the region beta. He says region beta paradox.
Okay.
And it applies, I'm thinking right now, to a lot of the stuff we're talking about in terms of engineers who are kind of stuck in this path that they might not want to be in.
Yeah.
And there is a pain that comes with change. The only reason you change is because you don't like the current state that you're in. If you were in a perfect current state, you wouldn't want to change.
Okay.
The motivation from change comes because you're unsatisfied with your current state. Okay?
Yeah.
Fair? There is a region where the pain isn't strong enough for you to change. So it's not allowing you to necessarily take on the cost or the burden of saying, I'm going to revamp my life. I'm going to cut ties with this person, or I'm going to quit this job, whatever it is. You're just comfortable. So basically the idea is that you would be better off if your situation was much worse, because that would actually motivate you to make it really good instead of just okay.
Yeah,
you know what
definitely
I mean?
saying this clip. Yeah.
So in terms of engineers, this is the same thing. A lot of them perhaps are just a little bit unsatisfied with where they're at. But it's going to pay them well. They're good at it. They are, making their family proud because they're not doing anything too crazy. They're not, stressing people out in their family because they're taking a crazy risk with engineering. But maybe for some of them, it would be better if, who knows, if something about the engineering stream or path was a little bit less certain. And then that would motivate them to say, okay, I'm not doing this. I'm going to do exactly what I want to do, and I'm going to still work my ass off at it. Probably even harder, because it's easier to work hard when you like to work at what you're doing.
Yeah.
So what would you say about that? Do you think that engineering students can somehow artificially make their situation worse to break themselves out of it?
That's the thing. So I actually think that I completely agree with what you said, and I know exactly what you're talking about now that you mentioned it. And I think you can't artificially do it. That's the whole reason why a lot of people are kind of stuck.
Why it's
in
a trap.
That sheep. It's a trap.
Yeah.
It has to naturally happen, and I believe that's what happened with me when I was on academic probation. When I got a 35 in the course, I failed 2 courses or whatever.
Right.
I realized my situation is really, really bad.
Yeah.
I'm scared about my future, right? Like I'm behind everyone else. And that's when I realized I got to do something different. I got to apply in a different manner. I got to make sure I get a good kind of internship before I graduate. I got to make sure that I'm like a TA that helps me with all of this. I had to do those type of things because it made me scared. And then it pushed me to that edge where it's like now I'm kind of in a better position where now I feel confident to come in the podcast and even just talk about stuff like this. But that's the whole problem, I feel like, is it's hard to kind of do that artificial thing, which is why people are trapped.
Yeah.
But if they kind of maybe listen to this or realize like, hey, maybe if I treat it, if I do kind of worry just for these next few years or something, it'll put me up in a way better spot when I graduate or something like that. If I stress out a bit and I'm like, I realize like, these grades are not getting me anywhere, and I do something else, it'll help. But I do agree with that. What's it called again? The beta region.
Yeah. Region beta paradox.
I like that one. Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
So for you, just because people feel stuck disliking what they do, is it necessary for them to be doing something they love? This is something that is a little bit more prevalent, I'd say, with Gen Z. The younger generation is a lot more concerned about, working in their passion, doing what they're passionate about. This idea wasn't prevalent in our parents' age. It was more just about, looking at where the market is and seeing what could earn you the most, because at the end of the day, you can spend your money to do the things you like doing. You don't necessarily need to like the work, because work is work. You're doing it because you have to do it. It's a responsibility. Yeah. What do you think about this idea of doing something you're passionate about?
Obviously, everyone wants to do something at the end of the day they're passionate about, right? I don't think there's anyone actually on this planet who would want to, like, as like a human being, would want to do something that they, you know, don't really like, or they're not passionate about. But obviously not everyone has that privilege, right? Like sometimes you have to take the safe route, right? You have to do something kind of what I'm doing. You have to do kind of this. And I feel like it's more about, you know, in whatever you're doing, finding the beauty of it, like the beauty in the small things. And if you're able to kind of spin that around for you to help, or you kind of do something as a hobby on the side to try to elevate your situation, I think that's good. But it's definitely a very big privilege to be doing something that you love, you're passionate about, and it supports you. Like you have, like, you know, if you want to support your kids or family or whatever, it's definitely a very rare thing to do. But that would be the ideal situation. But once again, you have to play your cards smartly. You have to play the cards you're dealt with. Yeah. So it's unfortunate that the world is like that, but I think, you know, a lot of people, they kind of just complain. They're like, hey, why is it like this? You know, why are certain things like this? And they kind of shift the blame on other things, but it's really easy to shift the blame on other things. But it's like, realistically, they're all out of your control. So it's like, what can you do as a person right now to do that? Yeah.
Do you think about stoicism ever? I don't know if this is something that you care about at all.
I can't lie. I've heard that term. I don't even know what it means, but what, can you explain it to me?
Well, it's basically what you were just talking about. It's understanding the forces in the world, the variables in your environment that you have some impact or control over, some influence on. So basically the Stoics just thought, I need to be completely aware of what is out of my control so that I can not care about it at all. If something's out of your control, then you shouldn't let it bother you.
Interesting.
Whereas the things that, you know, you do have impact on are the things that should consume your thoughts. So I'm wondering, like, with what you're talking about now, how much is, we talked about it earlier in the episode. We touched on it a little bit about how, you know, your thoughts do consume you. If TikTok is consuming 4 hours of your day, that's 4 hours of your brain energy that's just completely wasted. Mm-hmm. So with things, is there anything that the average engineering student maybe stresses over that they really shouldn't, because they don't have control over it?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of academics, there are a lot of things that are in the student's control, like the amount of time you study, the amount of work you put in. Yeah. I do feel if you study smart, if you go to office hours, you will get a good grade, right? You will, if you put that effort in, and if you're able to kind of correct yourself, if you're studying something that's so mundane, you have the ability to do that, and you kind of have the ability to do that. So I think in terms of a student perspective, that's kind of what you got to do. Like, you kind of just have that in your control. In terms of things that are out of your control, like in that situation, it's just, once again, these are kind of just bigger issues with just like the world and like the job market, for example, stuff like that, right? Where it's like, you don't know how it's going to change in a few years. You don't know who like the president is going to be in the next few years for any of this to happen. So it's like, you just got to make the smartest choice at like every point in your life. Like every week you got to think, like, is this what I got to do? Mm-hmm. And it's just me saying the same thing again and again, but it's like, you know, asking yourself why. And, you know, because the world is changing every day. Things are changing outside of your bubble every single day. So it's like, is the things that I'm doing right now, you know, aligning with what's happening out there? Type of thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. As we're saying it right now, as I'm just talking about it out loud, it's kind of, I've never thought about it this way, but this idea of stoicism, of understanding what's out of your control, kind of runs against the idea of ruthless self-accountability, which is a similar topic that, you know, I really, really grasped onto when I started hearing Andrew Tate pop up. And he was saying, there was a clip I saw of his that said, if it rains outside and I get wet, I will blame myself. I'm like, that's very interesting. He's like, yeah, a lot of people will be like, oh, it rained. He'll be like, I didn't come with an umbrella. Oh, okay. I didn't have an umbrella. I should have had something on me. Yeah. So, like, does any part of you, like for me, I actually employ that in my life a lot. I blame myself for everything that goes wrong. I try not to think of what other people could or should have done. Obviously, it's different when you're talking about your inner circle. You obviously want to be very aware of, you know, who's got your back, who's snitching on you. not who snitched on, but like who's got your back,
Yeah.
who's going to be there when times are rough, this kind of thing. But I think it is useful to try to, like you said, know especially all of the variables that you can impact or influence, which are go to office hours, study hard, study smart, study smart and study hard. Both of those very important.
Or, do what I do in terms of like career wise, if you don't want to study the internship thing, anything.
Exactly. And I think that it's tough because if the stoically minded person, if the stoic says, I don't have control over this, it's completely discarded from the realm of possibility of having control over it. Whereas the ruthless person, the person who's ruthlessly self-accountable says, I should somehow have some control over it. Even by believing that, might be able to somehow grasp 1% control.
Yeah.
I don't know if that, I can't even think of any practical examples of that, but surely there are some cases where just thinking that you can have an influence on everything can be helpful, but it is detrimental in some ways. That's very tough.
You can't let it consume you. Obviously, you can't be blaming yourself for everything. But it's just about finding that balance and just realizing like it is what it is. Fuck it, we ball.
Yeah.
If something goes wrong, it goes wrong. Think about what you could have done to improve it. If there's nothing you could have done, it is what it is.
Do you believe in work-life balance?
100%. Obviously. I mean, who wouldn't believe in work-life balance? It's more of like I guess, I don't know, if a lot of people enjoy working so much, right? If they just wanted to work or contribute to a company so much, like that's just what they do, then that's their life. So at the end of the day, that's still work-life balance, right? It's always going to be work-life balance. Yeah.
Well, in that case, it's like work and life have become one thing.
Yeah, just become one thing.
Yeah.
It's just the one thing balanced, yeah. But I think, you should always try to do your own thing, Money isn't everything. What is money at the end of the day? Paper.
Yeah.
Right? It's a privilege to have it, obviously, but it's like, do something, meaningful with your life.
What's the most meaningful thing you could do, in your opinion?
It's about something that you will be remembered for even when you die. Something that it's like, you have some sort of impact. Like you teach someone, you made someone happy. Something small like that. It doesn't even have to be a big thing, but it's like something that it's just so in their face where it's like, when you die, no one's going to remember all the money you had. No one's going to remember that. It's more of like, how many people did you, make happy? How many lives did you really change in that sense? That's what I believe is something meaningful. Anything can be meaningful to the person, I can do anything, but yeah, it just is. It is what it is.
Absolutely. Very interesting. Snoop Mesh.
Money doesn't matter.
Money doesn't matter?
Damn, you can't even rip these shits. It's real. Take it, look, it's real. I ripped that shit in my mouth. They purposely designed it so you can't even rip it. That's how much they engraved that shit in.
I think that's illegal. I'm pretty sure you're not allowed doing that.
Wait, actually. Nah. I mean, if it's your own money, surely, right? Maybe cut that part out then.
It's fake. It's fake money.
It's fake anyways. It's prop. Yeah. So, yeah. You saw it was just prop. Yeah. So, it's all good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Snoop Mesh, it's been a great time having you.
Thank you for having me.
Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with the audience?
No final thoughts. Just, be yourself, be happy, keep living.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Snoop Mesh Carthy, thank you for coming on the podcast.
No problem. Thank you.
You can follow us on Instagram @VoicesOfVic. And, shout out to Rid for linking us up here.
Shout out to Rid.
Big man Rid. And we will see you next Sunday. Peace out.